Hello, you lovely people. I'm Trudy, One Grounded Angel. This is a weekly angel card reading for the week starting at the 22nd of June through to the 28th of June 2020. I hope you're all doing well. I know there's a lot of really intense energy around at the moment, making a lot of us really emotional. We had a very powerful solar eclipse over the weekend in the sign of Cancer, the most emotional sign. We're also just going through the solstice. Mercury is in retrograde, Venus is in retrograde. There's a lot going on, so please try to be gentle with yourself if you're feeling all the feels, and just try to find some healthy ways to cope with that, which ideally don't involve you taking them out on other people. Monday's card, interesting, renewing your life. We had this, I can't remember how, recently though, on a Monday, so it's a beautiful note to start the week. And the reason I chose this card deck for this Monday, I think pretty much the same as I did the last Monday I used it, is because it's called Gateway. So it's all about when we're on the precipice of something exciting. And this card is very emblematic of that, because we're going through so much change. Things are being stripped down so that better, more egalitarian, more respectful structures can be built in our society. And so this card is very much about that. We need to, renewing your life, we need to throw away what is not working in order to bring through something that will work better for everybody, not just the privileged few. So you can see this box here is labeled clutter. You might want to take this on a really, really micro level and declutter your house. Or you might like to take it at the more macro level and think about what is it that I need to get rid of that is holding me back. Maybe it's holding back other people as well. What belief system have I got going on? What am I trying to prove that is getting in the way? Am I trying to prove my value to other people by making myself look superior to other people? Am I trying to give to people so that I feel good enough? Those sorts of things you might like to think about. They're not easy questions, but they are important. We can't expect to grow if we're not willing to do the work and examining what's going on underneath. Tuesday's card, so symbolic, release, very much linked into this Monday card here. We need to be able to let go in order to bring through the new things. So again, same sort of message. I love the birds here too, by the way. That's all about freedom. We often get so attached to the things that are actually suppressing us, that are actually holding us back, that we don't remember what it would be like to feel free, to feel lighter. So much of the feedback I get after my energy healing sessions is people feeling lighter. And I think that's because not just the energy healing work is so beautiful and so rejuvenating, but the fact is that people have been holding on to things that don't serve them for so long. Once they're gone, they remember, oh, this is what it's like to not be worried about what other people think of me, or this is what it's like, I had completely forgotten what it's like to actually be enjoying my life again. So yeah, it's very much about what do I need to let go of. So on to Wednesday, the 24th of June. Oh, card jumped right out, like it when that happened. Leap of faith here. Again, you know, I pointed out the birds here, and I noticed how the woman in this card, I think she might be an angel of some sort or a fairy, is leaping off a precipice, not unlike this one here, into the unknown. So it's very much about remembering that we can't see what's ahead, but we need to be willing to move in that direction, and be able to trust that things will be okay. We need to make sure that we're not holding back out of fear, because the fear will never go away. New things will always be scary. The unknown will always be scary. And so it's about making peace with that. This says, take a risk and put your heart's true desire into action. So for those of you who are contemplating some big changes, perhaps starting a new business, launching a passion project or some sort of practice, starting a new, I don't know, personal project, this is very much about taking a risk to do it. Now, that kind of language can be really, really provoking for people who are dealing with anxiety, who are really deep in the bonds of fear. They're hyper controlling their world to feel safe because the level of fear there is so great. So what I would say to you in that circumstance is not to go too big, because it's just going to provoke your energy too much and you're not going to be able to move forward. So really take baby steps here. The small things you can change in that direction. Because, so for an example, when I was getting prodded by the universe, not so subtly, to start doing this sort of work for reading angel cards initially, and then I started the energy healing later on. For clients, I was very reluctant. I thought, I didn't really see that I had anything to bring to the table. Tons of people are doing angel card readings. I just didn't really get it didn't resonate. I started to become more comfortable with the idea of this is part of my calling, and then I really wanted to do it. I didn't know how, and it was just too scary. And I read so many like blogs and articles saying, you know, you've got to just jump right in and the universe will catch you. So I basically stopped my work and took out a lease at this practice in Sydney where I was living at the time, and just thought, oh well, I've created the space now. Now there's room for the energy to come through. I've taken the rest of the universe will meet me halfway. And you can imagine how devastated I was when I had to quit that lease after a year, because I just didn't get the clients coming through. And so firstly, what that taught me, well, initially I was really angry at the universe. They had not fulfilled the part of the bargain that I felt that it was going to do. Quite presumptuous, I can see now. I didn't recognize that at the time. And secondly, what that taught me was that when you are doing a big radical change and you've got a lot of fear, you're going to resist it in some way because of your fears. So what I did was I went back to working part-time so that I could still have an income coming through while I built up the practice on the side. I started doing it on Skype from my home, so I didn't have to invest as much money. The risks there was still risk. I started to put myself out there, but they were brought down a little bit. It wasn't quite so terrifying for my energy. And that started to shift things in my favor. It grew and grew. I am still working another work on I wouldn't say part-time, it goes up and down, but you know, at least 2 days a week. But I have the space for the clients to come through now, and they do come through. So I guess it's a very long-winded story, isn't it? What I'm trying to say is if you make really dramatic, high-impact moves, you might get this pushback where it's just too much for your energy. And what I felt when that happened was I felt ashamed. I felt like I'd failed. And that really made me want to give the whole thing up and wish I hadn't bothered. But luckily I had a very good spiritual coach to help me through this process. By going back in slowly, clearing some of that shame attached to what had happened, and learning, so I could learn the lessons instead of just painting it as, oh, this is so embarrassing, I don't even want to think about it. I was able to go, okay, I need to move slowly because my energy, I've got big safety fears and my energy just does not respond to big dramatic moves. I need to go one step at a time, while knowing that I still have my needs met on some level. Because if I'm going to be struggling to even pay my rent, that's not going to lead to me making good decisions and giving good quality readings to people, because I'm going to be, I'm deep in fear in that point. So hopefully that story made some sense. Thursday's card here, truth be told. These illustrations, man, they blow my mind. They're so pretty. So you can see the owl here, the owl being a symbol of wisdom. It's got this window on its heart, pretty strong symbolism there. It's standing on top of a mask. A mask is all about inauthenticity. So not being ourselves, pretending to be something we're not. The owl is the wisdom on top of that, opening the heart, letting the authenticity flow, telling the truth, speaking up for what is important to us. Now, sometimes what happens is when we talk about authenticity is people mistake that for being all about oversharing. They think, in a kind of social media kind of way, when you see people like completely oversharing in an effort to build audiences, in an effort to expose themselves so they get people responding to it. But when we're oversharing, when we're just completely vomiting up everything instead of being delivering it in a way that is heartfelt, that is appropriate for the time, that's not really going to lead to that's not really the sort of vulnerability that Brené Brown is talking about. In fact, she's got a lot to say about oversharing. That's very much something that we're doing in order to elicit a particular response. Whereas Authenticity is something we do because it's who we are. We are here to tell the truth, and it's what we do to grow and learn and to connect with people. We're not doing it to make a statement. We're not doing it to look how right I am, or look how superior I am, or anything like that. And it's certainly not to get people to feel sorry for us. So really think about your intentions with authenticity, but this is very much about telling the truth, and we need to be telling the truth in a way that is not going to be attacking people or shaming them. It needs to be delivered with love, but still very firm, as per Sunday's card about assertiveness. So if there's something that you need to say, I think it's no coincidence that my throat feels a bit blocked as I'm delivering this. Excuse me. It can get stuck in your throat when you've got something that needs to be said. So definitely really think about what it is that needs to be said. Are you pretending to be something you're not in order to make other people happy? Are you going along with something you don't want to do because you think that's what your partner wants from you? You know, that's not being authentic, and that's the antithesis to intimacy in our relationships. Friday's card here is See Only Love. This kind of echoes some of those messages from last week about compassion and empathy and a lack of judgment. This is a big theme for me personally at the moment. I'm guessing it is for some of you as well. It's all about, we can go two ways with this, as I explained last week. It can be very much about compassion for other people instead of going into judgment of them because they've done things that we maybe would not have done. But there's also the other aspect, which is compassion towards yourself. Instead of seeing ourselves as failures, can we see ourselves as humans doing the best that we can, and understanding that we need to screw up in order to learn. That's just the deal. So, you know, if you were to listen to the internal monologue of someone you loved very much, you would probably be quite appalled by the things they say to themselves. And I'm sure the people who love you would be quite shocked and yeah, really dismayed perhaps to hear some of the things that you probably say to yourself. And one of my ongoing messages has been, you know, you screw everything up, you're a failure. That is not a problem for me as much anymore because I've done so much work on myself, but certainly in the past that has been what's been playing out in my mind. So a little compassion there. Thinking of yourself as your own best friend can be a good way to think about it. The things, and remembering that the words you say, just like the thoughts that you have an energetic charge, and if you're putting your energy into words or messages that don't reflect what you actually want or what you believe, you know, you're going to start to attract things that you don't want. Now, by the way, because of the way the sun is, the light is reflecting. So I know some of you are probably seeing the light bounce around and go, oh, wow, that's some energetic presence there. It's not, it's just the way the light is shining. So commitment here for Saturday. Commitment is about your commitment to yourself, to your own growth, moving forward with the goals you set, the promises you made to yourself. It may also be about your commitment to other people. If you haven't been giving as much time to your close relationships, that might be something to think about and start redressing that balance. Have you committed to something that isn't in line with what you want and what reflects you? You might have said yes to something that somebody asked you to do and then thought, actually, I don't really want to do this. I just did this because I thought it would make them like me more, or I wanted to make them happy. So really thinking about where you have committed your time and your energy, which is never not relevant, really. Have I used every single card deck? Yes, I have. So, oh, actually, I've already used that one. Sorry, I lost track. Not that it matters. I don't have to use a different card deck for each day. It's just something I like to do. So, a bit of repetition wouldn't be a bad thing. But here we have Sunday's card, Shield Yourself, which is repetitive because we had this exact message last Thursday, albeit in a different card deck. So the reason a message like this is repeated across so many different card decks is because it is eternally relevant. This idea of shielding yourself is one that so many people, particularly empaths, often miss to their own detriment. There is an idea that feeling what other people are feeling is an act of kindness, but you don't actually serve people by taking on board their emotions. If you think about it, if you're in distress and you're sharing your story with someone, you don't really want them to burst into tears and then go home and feel absolutely miserable because of what you've told them. You want them to listen to you. You probably do want them to feel empathy for you, of course, but you don't want them to have those emotions as part of their emotional makeup. So shielding is so important. Shielding doesn't mean cutting yourself off from what other people are feeling. There isn't really a way to cut that off. If you're an empath, you'll always feel what other people are feeling. You need to it's putting boundaries up, really, to make sure that you're not making those emotions your own, which is something that empaths do, and particularly codependent people do, because somewhere in their conditioning has been this idea of you have to be a good person, you have to really be devoted to other people's emotional needs, and some people just go a bit too far with that, and sometimes it's to distract them from the work they need to do on themselves by getting involved in other people's dramas and other people's emotional situations. Anyway, totally off on a tangent there. Shielding yourself is important. It's very easy. All you need to do is every morning say out loud in your head to Archangel Michael, please place me in a protective bubble of light today. You can mix that up if you want. Say, I want to be shielded today. Please shield my energy. Please place me in a shield so that only love comes in and only love comes out, or something like that. It's entirely up to you. But that's a very simplified version of what I do. I do something a lot more complicated because the work I do is so intensive. I'm working in people's energy fields at such a deep level. I need a lot of barriers to protect me as I do that work. So I don't take on board their stuff, so that I don't let any other forces come into the space, all that sort of thing. So I'm not going to take you through what I do, because it's really only necessary if you are an energy healer working in that modality, and that's necessary self-care. So all you really need to know is that you need to protect yourself, and sometimes that protecting yourself is also about, as I mentioned for Saturday's card, making good choices about where you're investing your time and energy. If you're trying to rescue someone, maybe rethink that, because you can't. Unfortunately, you can only listen to them and love them from a distance. You cannot save them, and particularly you can't save them if that's something that you have been taught to do as a way of earning love and feeling valued. So let's look at the week. What is... A lot about release. That's probably the strongest theme, I would say. And I guess, yeah, those ideas about making good decisions about where you invest your time and energy is pretty strong right now. Yeah, I guess that's really, obviously there's a lot of other things going on, but those are the strongest overriding themes. So I hope this reading has been helpful to you. If you feel confused or something's really not resonating, it might be that you need to think about investing in a personal reading, because I can't tailor the cards to every specific person that is watching. I'm relying on you using your intuition to interpret the messages in a way that is meaningful to the context of your life, your circumstances, your life stage, and what messages have already been coming up for you internally, whatever you're dealing with as well. So if you need some help with that, please reach out for a personal reading. I work over Zoom, so geography is not an issue. Time zones are not an issue. Currency conversions are easy. So to do that, you can email me, and my email address is on my website, or you can just go to my website and fill out the bookings form. My website is www.onegroundedangel.com, and if what I've been sharing in terms of the underlying beliefs or the fears that I've talked about is resonating with you, you might like to think about working with me on a more regular basis in energy healing to really get to the heart of that and really strip away some of those fears and traumas and limiting beliefs that are showing up for you. I work at a very deep level, so I can really bring about some shifts for you, but you've got to be willing to show up and do the work. So that's it for the week. Each card goes on my Instagram each day, at One Grounded Angel, and my Facebook page, of course, is it's called One Grounded Angel as well. So I hope it's been helpful for you. Thank you very much for watching. Take care of yourself. Remember to try and be gentle with yourself amid this emotional storm that is going on. You are not your feelings. Take care.